excited to welcome you all, a series where we shine the spotlight on people who are making a huge difference for equality in their respective fields. With December 3rd being the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, it's a great time to dedicate this edition to disability inclusion. Because at Accenture, we have a deep commitment to creating an inclusive and barrier-free workplace for everyone who can thrive and be themselves. Did you know there are more than 1 billion people in the world with a disability? Well, that's more than 1 billion reasons why we all must play a role in enabling a more inclusive world. On that note, let's meet our guest, Sparsh Shah. Sparsh is a singer, songwriter, rapper, inspirational speaker, and a philanthropist. This talented artist has won many awards and hearts with his beautiful voice. But did you know Sparsh was born with an incurable disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which makes his bones extremely fragile. At the time of birth, Sparsh had more than 30 fractures, and the doctors had given a very bleak prognosis. It won't be an exaggeration to say that even a hard handshake would break his bones. Today, kudos to his strong determination and willpower. Sparsh is a role model and somebody who has not only overcome the challenges related to his disabilities, but made a huge mark in the music industry. Now he aims to win a Grammy someday. Sparsh is a symbol of courage and hope and an inspiration to millions. Hello, Sparsh. Welcome to Accenture. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Priyanka. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really blessed to be here. So, thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here, and let's get started with our questions. Sparsh, you have miraculously battled with your disability over the years. Tell us about your journey and what is it to live like Sparsh Shah?
I think that's a pretty interesting question, and I think it has a really big scope. The first thing I would just want to point out is I think part of living like me is realizing that, you know, even though I've had to battle a lot of pain with fractures and with the surgeries that I've gone through, I don't feel like I have to battle my disability or my condition anymore. I feel like really I see that as a strength of mine and not as a weakness. So I work together with my disability. I don't really battle it. But, in terms of living like me, to put it simply, I think to live like me is to know who you are and why you're here, and to always be humbled by that epiphany. To live like me is to know that life isn't easy, but also it's to know that on top of the many blessings we see, life's hardships are also blessings in disguise. And with that knowledge, to live like me is to know that your given limitations are not obstacles, but stepping stones. And that every limitation that starts in the mind also can end in the mind. I mean, I've had 140 fractures so far in my life. I've had 8 rods and 22 screws put into my body. But all of this has only made me a more resilient and optimistic person. So, to live like me is to constantly push your boundaries and continually evolve, not just in your career, but also in your character, because success is the journey, not the destination. I've given over 250 live, virtual, and televised performances in front of over 2 billion people. And I've traveled to 9 countries to speak and perform. But I truly believe that this is just the beginning of my story. To live like me is to be unconventional, to think differently, speak differently, act differently. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? Or in my case, why fit in when you were born to sit out?
Sparsh, it's amazing how multifaceted you are, and you've really shown that it is mind over matter. Definitely been extremely challenging for you. Where do you draw your inspiration from? What really motivates you?
So I think two main philosophies motivate me to keep going. The first one is that all things ultimately work together for the greater good of yourself and for everyone else. I know that it can be very hard to understand and apply when you're going through challenging situations in life, but if you look at our planet, we could not have mountains without valleys, right? So that philosophy has taught me to never lose faith in the valleys, in my valleys in life, and to never lose humility in the mountains of my life. And those virtues, faith in the valleys and humility in the mountains are what keep me going. The second philosophy that really motivates me and inspires me is the words of one of my paraprofessionals in school. And she said, "We are all different, just like our fingerprints are." And that saying of hers has taught two big things. First, it's taught me that it doesn't matter how other people see my struggles, and it's worthless for me to compare my struggles to other people's struggles because my struggles were made for me and me alone, and your struggles were made for you and you alone. So I think the only thing that matters here is that my challenges are challenging for me. But when you learn from your challenges and learn how to deal with them, the amazing thing that happens is your struggles become your strengths. And once your struggles become your strengths, you become unstoppable.
Fantastic, Sparsh. I just love the way that you are thinking and the way you evolved your thought process, learning from people around you. Really, really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, like, you know, it's better to I have this saying that, if I am is greater than I was, then I'm making progress. So that's the goal, continual evolution.
You've been on Kaun Banega Crorepati. You've sung the national anthem in front of our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, delivered a TED talk inspiring millions of people. And you've talked about turning impossible into I am possible.
At the end of the day, I mean, I'm just trying to fulfill a mission and vision that is greater than just myself. And I know that part of that mission and vision, which I also believe is a part of all of humanity's mission and vision, is to leave the world better than I found it. So I've been very fortunate to be able to help empower a lot of people with, disabilities or special needs through my work as a philanthropist. For example, I'm the youth ambassador of a nonprofit called Voice of Disabled People, and we have a lot of different initiatives that and advocacy and enablement that we've been using to, help elevate people who are differently abled. So I feel like, whether it's that organization or any other way that I'm helping people out, I always feel grounded with a sense of individual responsibility to change the way that we see ourselves, our limitations in our world. And I also feel a strong sense of social responsibility because no matter how great my legacy will be, I really am just one page in the tremendous story of life. So I'm just really playing, ultimately a small role in this really big picture.
I think it ties to the philosophy of be the change you want to see around you, right? The
Absolutely.
only person you can change is yourself, and you are really doing that in action and thought.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How did you start on your musical journey, Sparsh? Tell us a little bit more about how you got started and, of course, your rhythm, which is your on-stage persona and name.
So, I mean, I've been performing since I was 7, and I started with some more local events. But then I think after Not Afraid, it became a lot more international. So that's when I really started traveling to all those 9 countries that I mentioned earlier and giving speeches in front of bigger and bigger crowds. And I got to fulfill my dream of performing in front of 1 billion people twice before I became an adult. The first time was performing at Kaun Banega Crorepati, the season 10 finale, because that alone is India has a billion people. It was broadcasted to 185 countries. That was watched by a billion people. And the second time was when I was performing in front of Prime Minister Modi ji. So that was broadcasted to 2 billion people through TV and the internet. That also 50,000 people were on the stage. So it was my biggest live crowd too. And then my creative background is, when I was 10, I started writing my own songs. And soon after, I started writing my own raps. And when I started writing raps, I came up with my stage name, Pure Rhythm. So Pure Rhythm is a fusion of the words pure and rhythm. And so the statement I'm trying to make with that name is that I'm going to be a force for goodness and positivity in the music industry, especially the hip hop industry, by being pure and clean in my lyrical content. And I want to impact the world through my music in a way that even if no one remembers my name when I'm gone, they'll still remember that my music and my work made this world a better place.
And Sparsh, you're really taking it from Hindustani classic to hip hop. I mean, what a journey. And I'm sure you've just started. There'll be so much more that we will hear of you, and really God bless. You're such an inspiration, Sparsh. Your name means touch, and today you have truly touched our hearts and minds. Against the backdrop of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, tell us a message and a call to action for our viewers, please.
Yeah, my message for everyone here is simply that we are all different, and being different is more than just okay. It's something to celebrate, because I don't think any difference can make a person any weaker or less capable or less valuable than everyone else. And I believe that the only disability that really exists is an attitude that limits you. And for those of us who are medically known as disabled, I think really we're just differently abled. And what I mean by that is, I know that jargon gets thrown around a lot, but I mean that just just as one person may be good at sports and maybe not so good at art, I may not be good at physical activity, but I am good at what I do. And that doesn't make me any less capable or human. And neuroplasticity shows us that, the mind can adapt to heighten the functions that we have when we are incapable of certain other functions. But I don't think we should ever make the mistake of thinking that this adaptation is a form of compensation. And I'll give you my own story because I had to learn this myself. I used to tell people this saying in my speeches that when one door closes, another opens. So I would tell people that even though God took my ability to walk, he gave me a voice instead. But now I realize that, I was wrong. God never took anything away from me by giving me the body that I have. He just gave me a window instead of a door, and I just never saw it that way until recently. So if you were to ask me why there are disabled people in the world, my answer is I believe we exist because I think God is trying to use people like us to tell the world that it doesn't matter what you can't do. You can still be used to do amazing things as long as you focus on what you can do. And I think as soon as the rest of the world realizes that, everything, every right that we have been fighting for, accessibility, enablement, inclusion, etc., I think that'll come naturally. So my message and my call to action is let's change our mindsets, the way we see people with disabilities, not as different, not as disabled, but differently abled, and not as disadvantaged, but differently advantaged. So in fact, speaking of which, there's actually I wrote a rap for a song, an original song once, that actually talks about disability. So, I
Would love
mean, would
to
it be
hear,
okay?
would love to hear that.
All right, awesome. So, let me share that with you. A bird, when it flies, doesn't care about its size, and airplanes, even with their weight, can soar across the skies. From STEM to arts to sports, we have traveled far, even though they said we wouldn't make it. Do you know who we are? Everyone is blessed, each differently than the rest, but we all have the zest to live life to the fullest. No matter our ability, we all can breathe in life in ways people can't imagine, though obstacles are rife. We may not have voices, but we are not unheard. Yes, we may seem trapped, but we are freer than birds. You may say we're cursed, but we're miracles in disguise. And you may try to put us down, but we will always rise.
Wow, that is so good, Sparsh. Awesome.
Thank you.
I love the way you have this outlook to life that is always the glass full and making it fuller for others along with you. Thanks once again, Sparsh. It's been truly humbling and inspirational to speak with you. We wish you great luck in pursuing your passion and, of course, winning that Grammy very soon.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute honor to be here. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you. We'll be back soon with another powerful personality lighting the way for an equal world. Till then, take care and stay safe. And as we say, let there be change.